Hi, and welcome to the Tali and Los podcast, where we discover spirituality together. And today I'm here with Maria Elena, and she is a therapist. She is a quantum shaman, a Reiki Master, and an akashic record reader. And there is a lot more things that she can do. Hi, Maria. How are you?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're on the other side of the world, quite literally. You're in Ecuador at the moment.
Yes, right.
And we met only one time on Zoom, and Carrie Palmer put us in touch. And Carrie told me, this lady, you need to talk to her because she's got a lot of ability. She's very open, like herself, but also spiritually. You are in touch with, well, obviously with the center of your soul, with the core of your soul, because we're going to talk about that, how to get there, but also with the higher dimensions and the source. So tell us a little bit about yourself before we're going to start into introducing the journey to the core of the soul, please.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, as you said, I'm a therapist, holistic therapist. So I started like 16 years ago studying Reiki. I did all the different types of Reikis that you can imagine. Akashic record reading, and then Akashic record healing. So I've been discovering into my life all the different holistic methods of healing. I've been always very interested in how to resolve issues and problems. And with energy, it's not always instantaneous. So I've been studying a lot why, how, where, all the questions you can have. Well, I try to give an answer to that, more or less scientific answer, right? Because when I started, I didn't feel anything, I didn't see anything. I was blocked everywhere. Before I was doing therapy, I was working in the opera. So I lived in Italy for like 18 years before I was living in Germany. I'm from Spain, from Madrid. And in my family, nobody was into energies or other dimension things. I come from a very Catholic family, so one life, church, things like that. Mm-hmm. And my dad was very, very Catholic. So actually my background has nothing to do with therapies and energies and stuff like that. So when I was into the opera world, that I worked for 25 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Long time.
I was a stage designer and a stage director. So I for me it was a beautiful, very beautiful, opera. But at one point, I had the typical period of the night of the soul, crisis, depression. So I started to look for help, not with psychologists, but, somehow Reiki came to my life. It had to come. It was my destiny.
Yes.
And I started to go into the knowledge of all of this beautiful world about energy. So of course I went into meditations. I want to understand that we had an energetic field, body. I didn't even know what a chakra was. I mean, terrible. And I started to learn from the very, very basics. Wow. And it took me a lot of time, actually years, to start feeling something and to start discovering that things were moving in my life, because for 4 years nothing moved. So this is where actually I got all the focusing as a therapist today is about, why do I have this? What's the meaning? What's behind that? Why should I? Why? Because. So
Yeah.
I've been asking and asking and asking. When I started, to channel a little bit, I was so enthusiastic about it that I started to ask even more and more and more.
Yes.
Even the origin of the soul. So I started to discover the different dimensions, the different beings, the different ETs, everything was new.
Yeah.
So I started to ask, and at one point I say, okay, but our logic as humans, we're copying patterns. So, but my origin is not the same as yours. So even if we have the same, I don't know, if you have the same pain as I have, maybe the origin is not the same thing, and maybe the lesson is not the same, right? So I started to ask for the differences, and how can I have a solution, and is my solution your solution? So I started to ask all that, universe of solutions, until once I was channeling, I was channeling light beings and my guides, the typical thing that is really helpful at one point. And I was used to have them working with me as a therapist. And Jesus was, well, he still is my master. He was teaching me many things, and I was, asking him all the time, well, ask God this, ask God the other thing. I mean, he should know.
Yes.
I mean, for me, he was so far away that I didn't really feel that I could talk to him. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Even though I was taught in my family that you pray and you ask God, but this religion teaches you to be so distant and separated from God and from love and from everything, that you need to ask for permission for everything, that I still had that thought.
Right.
And Jesus said, why don't you ask yourself? I mean, you're worthy to ask God. I mean, you are God. And I'm like, oh, come on. What do you mean I'm God? I mean, I mean, you are the guy. I mean, you're the son, but you are the same. I'm like, yeah, but I have lots of sins and I have lots of things.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just a little tiny thingy. Please help. You have so many questions. So you ask him. You ask him. So at one point I said, okay, bye-bye. And once I was with a patient, and I put my hands on his head, and I listened to this voice, hello, and I'm like, I don't feel anything. Where are you all, guys? I mean, oh my guides, where are you? I'm here all by myself. I cannot feel anything. I don't see anything, don't feel anything. What's going on? And this voice, hello, you were asking for help, right? And I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
I'm like, what you say God is? Well, that's what I am. I'm like, oh, come on. So all this conversation, was coming through. I was doubting about everything, because this voice was, so natural, so nice to me. And then at one point I'm like, but who are you? I'm Source. I'm God. You wanted to know things, right? But I'm going to teach you that it's not possible to think with the human logic. You have to think with source logic. And source logic is the universal, the cosmic. You have to think in different ways.
Yeah.
And I said, how do I do that? And he's like, let's start. So this happened like 8 years ago. And I started, of course, to have lots of questions, and all my life, everything that I studied disappeared. It's like erased, zero.
Wow.
From actually the very beginning, but actually with his logic, I mean, source logic. And source logic is just so different, because is the awareness of the oneself, is the awareness that you are experiencing a life, many lives in different dimensions, to experience creation and to experience by your own experience. So your own point of view. Nobody's telling you what to do, what to say, what to think, and what to believe, but through your own expansive experience. And of course, it's the experience through your spiritual awareness. And spiritual means the contact with your own soul. And the contact with your own spirit. Spirit is the dimensional awareness. And of course, with the connection with source, knowing that you are experiencing. So actually that, and everything about frequency. So actually I was the typical, therapist that comes from Reiki, and of course, you know about all the differences in your light body and things like that, but you don't really work with the laws of the universe. You don't really work knowing about the frequencies. You just take blockades away, of course.
Yes.
And you transmute one energy with another one. You just feeling with light, but you don't know exactly what it is. So I started to ask for intentions and details. So little by little, I was downloading information that at the beginning it didn't really have a form. It was just information that I was remembering in a way. I was remembering, but I didn't really know how to use it. Right. So at one point I was really, really blocked. I could feel that I needed to bring down some things, but I didn't know how to do it. So this is a turning point in my life, because it was exactly when my dad died. He was actually, in a way, he was a master for me about patience and discovering other dimensions. And it was very important for me, my dad, in his limited thought. He was an engineer, an aeronautical engineer, and he didn't believe in ETs and things like that. So I mean, my dad was very weird, because he was a brilliant guy, a brilliant engineer. He was one of the best engineers in the Spanish history. And he didn't believe in anything that was out of space.
Even though he was working with
and I'm like, Dad, I mean, ETs exist. And he's like, no, we're the only ones in the whole universe. And I'm like, I mean, Dad, do you think God thinks this way? And he's like, yes, because church says. And wow. So for me, it was the door to break all these beliefs, and to discuss at home, because I was living with him, every time we were having supper and dinner, we were discussing things. For me, he was the school to discuss without being frustrated. I had in front of me somebody that was never going to believe me. So I had to find a way to stay in my truth without being destroyed.
Without, and also disturbed, I guess, because it's very hard to...
because he was saying, you're gonna get lost. I have to go to mass because you have to be forgiven by God, because everything that you do is so strange. But he liked Reiki. He liked me to give him sessions and to play the singing bowls. He liked that, because of course he was feeling okay. But I guess that I was doing it with so much respect and love that his belief system was starting, to be breaking, but his belief system was so strong. That it was a way for me to understand how to move in the different belief systems of my future patients. Because I have lots of patients that don't believe in other lives, and So my dad was actually very, very important for me.
Yeah, it's like a school, like a
So
proper school he was then for
yeah,
you as
yeah,
well.
yeah. It was a school. So when
Yeah.
he died, and I had this blockade, this hypnosis, boom, came through me, and I said, "Oh, I should try hypnosis." So I was looking for a hypnotherapist in Madrid for me to help me go through this blockade. I knew it was the method.
Yeah.
So I found it, and I had a first session of 3 hours.
Wow.
And I looked at myself, and I could see myself as another being, actually Arcturian being. But it was so strange because I had all these problems with ETs, abductions and things like that, that were very, very strange for me, for my belief system. But I did have experiences. And when I saw myself, I said, "Oh wow!" And my hypnotherapist took me to that life and took me to why is it so important for me to be in that life, and what do I have to bring down?
Oh.
So I saw myself as a scientist of consciousness. And at one point, I was like bringing down information. It was data.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was so strange. Something opened in my brain, and I was bringing down this data that all of a sudden I could understand exactly what I was doing. And I said, "Oh, but this method is mine from another dimension." So I started to understand dimensions and how things interfere in your life. But when you're not aware, it's not that you can focus on that.
No.
Because you don't know that exists. So this is one of the problems that we have for awareness and what we call the awakening or the ascension. There's so many different ways of calling the same thing. That when you don't know that things exist, you don't see it. For example, I might have a ship, in the sky, but since I don't know that exists, I just see a cloud.
Yes.
And I don't see the ship.
Yeah.
But if I know that there are so many things existing in other dimensions that actually you can see here,
See them.
but you don't know that exists, you don't know. So you don't, it's transparent. You don't see it.
Yeah.
So you start like being aware of so many other things that you understand, and you start like opening your knowledge and your wisdom into other frontiers. So this is actually what consciousness is, open to other dimensions, but in this dimension on Earth.
Yes.
But bringing from other dimensions. You just is like opening to other levels of consciousness. So that's what we call the levels of consciousness, being aware that's other information that before you could not understand. Now you know how to understand it, but also how to transform things, how to transform your life through that information.
Yes.
So I started to bring down my maps. As I told you before, it's been like 7-8 years that I'm working on the maps.
Yeah.
So little by little, I started to give it a form and to give it a method, how to use it. Today, I have 3 maps.
Yeah.
And these maps are actually really cool because they're useful for everything. So every issue or every problem you have, there is a solution.
Yes.
And there is a solution through frequencies. So it's a map to understand and to bring down exactly the frequency you need to resolve your problem. And of course, it could be spiritual, mental, emotional, physical emotion, but it has all of it in the map. So what I do usually now is bring down your present map, your life map of today, explaining the different cycles that you have in life, where you are, what's the process, where to focus, why, and where is a blockage. where you have an issue, a problem, open that up, and see the origin. And through that origin, you can see lots of the different opportunities, I call issues or resilient points of views. I call them opportunities that issues bring you to transform your life as an awareness. Because usually what things come all the time in your life, as we call it, karma, that problems that are still there and they repeat and repeat, are lessons, spiritual lessons, usually patterns that we need to resolve. And resolving is not only this karma that we need to learn, but also a lesson that our soul is experiencing through these opportunities in life.
Right. So do you think that the lessons are not just from the one dimension, from spirit? Do you think they could also be from the different dimensions as well? So it's not just the past life that I usually talk about is all the past life of human forms. But do you believe, and you believe that it could be from different dimensions, the past lives?
Yeah. Remember that what we call future or past lives are our lives, our aspects of the different incarnations that are simultaneous. So nothing is past or future. Everything is happening at the same time in this universe. Okay. There are other universes too. Sometimes the help that we are receiving from other lives or other dimensions is because those dimensions are other lives living in different dimensions. So for example, I could be a Pleiadian, I could be an Arcturian, I could be a Lyrian, I could be a Draco.
Yes.
I could be so many things. Also human aspects of my soul, right? In the different past lives that we call past life. Everything is happening in the different time, space, awareness, okay? So everything is simultaneous. Sometimes we are receiving information from our own aspect. Our higher self is the main brain or the main, not soul, but is the main brain that is having the cognition of what's happening in every aspect of our lives.
So that's the akashic records, right? Is that?
Yeah, that's where you can find your akashic record.
Yes.
All the information of this life, other lives. Remember that this life is 20% of one aspect of your soul. And your soul is directly connected to the spirit. And the spirit is what we call the higher self. Is where all the information of all the different aspects of the different dimensions is, okay? And our higher self can change so many things. So when we work with the Akashic records, we can ask our higher self to please change this, or be aware of this, or please do this, or bring down this information, because it's the monitor, is our hard drive, right?
Yeah.
So when we ask for the different information, sometimes is another aspect of us living in another dimension helping us. Yeah. So
Right.
it's the same me in another dimension bringing information here or helping us in this dimension. And sometimes there are other beings helping, other light beings, other manifestations of aspects of creatures, of creation, consciousness. Okay, that consciousness, when you understand these metaphysics, you understand that we all come from the same origin. We all come from the same nature of intelligence, is what we call source. Source, I mean, God, it's just a name we give through religion, but actually is source. Source is an intelligence.
Mhm.
a huge intelligence, expanding awareness, expanding consciousness, expanding creation. We are creators of our own reality. And
Mm.
all that information goes back to source sooner or later. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So when you understand that, I explain it like in a very simple way and
Mhm.
humorous way. So God once said, I want to expand myself. I want to be a creator. I want to have all the information and all the opportunities for me to express myself. Boom! And he exploded in thousands of millions, trillions of little sparkling lights.
Mhm.
Every sparkling light is one of us, is one aspect of creation. That's what it is, your higher self. And your higher self just is a little sparkle. And
Right.
we have an opportunity to expand ourselves in the different manifestations of life, of
Mm.
creation, of dimensions in this universe and other universes. And every time we are being aware that we are that, we are expanding consciousness. We're like a little branch of consciousness in the universe, expanding, expanding, expanding. But to expand, we need to be aware that we are, me is you, and I come from this and that. And you can understand this is so incredibly infinite that you understand that we are come from the same origin. So I am you,
Yes.
and you are me, and we are all connected. So if we're all connected, all the intentions of our consciousness is connected. So when you need help, when you want to expand, when you are asking for opportunities, that expressions of consciousness of other dimensions or other beings is us helping each other,
Yes.
expanding. Okay. So it's
Mhm.
just the point of view
Beautiful.
of the focus of the awareness of the consciousness that makes you think that is Laura or is Maria Elena or is whoever,
Yes.
right? But we are all expanding in the different levels of consciousness. So this is the cool thing, that as humans, the human species is divided in different races. And the different races have different cultures, different levels of consciousness, different cultures. So just humans are so different one another.
Yeah.
And we always think that we are separated. And this is one of the problems that becomes an issue, that becomes an opportunity for us to evolve, because we're not separated.
No.
We're all together.
Yes.
And everything in this planet is all about being separated through religion, through politics, through sports,
Yes.
through men and women, through everything is, we are separated, divided. And we think we're alone. We think that nobody's going to understand us. We think that everything is separated from me. And evolution right now is, we have to evolve.
Oh, yes.
Being aware that we are all the same, but in the different aspects of understanding who we are and how can we transform our lives. And transforming our lives is being aware that we are creator.
Yes. And I think also with I think we talked when we just met on Zoom for the first time, we talked about that a lot of healers and spiritual beings, we really start to connect even more and more, I think, especially in the last 3 years. And we're all working on embracing each other, no matter what, in what dimension you believe in or what type of energy connects with you. Whether it's a spirit or ET or dragons or anything like that. Do you, because you studied so many of these physical, like the physics side as well, and the quantum side, as you say, which I think is really cool, the quantum shamanic side from you. how can you help? How do you actually help people? How do you actually help people while you in touch with all these dimensions? As a therapist, as a shaman, how do you go about any treatments?
Well, I use my maps.
Yeah. And
I
then
use
for
my
the
maps.
listeners, I've seen those maps. They are physically on the wall. Yeah. They are
Yes,
physically,
they're all
gigantically
written
on the
out.
wall, which is really cool. You can see them on her website as well, a little bit, a tiny bit of it, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the maps.
So yeah, I use the maps, and of course, every time that I have somebody in front of me, it's for me, it's a different universe.
Mhm.
So it's like starting from the very beginning. So the question is always, how can I help reflect this person the solution that needs right now?
Yeah.
And the solution is what this person can understand from the point of view that has right now. Usually people come here as a victim or as a, the focus is always very, very explicit. And sometimes the solution is from another point of view, another focusing, resolving many problems, or resolving through forgiveness, or there's always a path that
Yes.
that person needs to follow. So I can see, or in a way I can understand and discern the path of this person, and tell this person in their language. So sometimes I have to translate myself and the knowledge and the wisdom into a very simple way to do things, or how to go through things. I have to translate the path to the solution, but understanding the point of view where they are. And the shamanic way is really the way to understand that, because when you can see the person from the different aspects, they call the aspects the archetypes, from the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual, you see the path in the different levels of consciousness of the person until you go to the very highest. So the healing always comes from the highest point of view to the person, right? Not from where they can see it, because from where they can see it is very difficult to understand the solution. You have to help them transform their point of view.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the very shamanic quantum thing. And the maps give you all these points of view to understand. Is a path. And the path is a process. So I call my method the evolutionary processes, because the cool thing about healing is the process of discovering who you are and discovering why things happen. And every problem, every situations, every relations you have in life, it has a meaning for you to discover yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. So to see light always in whatever happens. And when you understand that that is a process, that is a path, and that you can change everything by changing, transforming your point of view, that's healing.
Yes. Well, that's true. Yes. And I think what you do also the healing of, the past as well, like ancestral healing, the current healing, current traumas. And when you describe something to me, and I'm still fascinated about it, is you use the platonic solids.
Yeah.
To explain. So you use the triangle as a beginning. It's got 3 points. Yeah, as a beginning. That's when is that when someone is still traumatized, or is it someone with who doesn't connect just yet with their higher self? Or how would you describe it in words without seeing them?
Well, I would call the triangle the first. I mean, is to explain people, because this is also very shamanic. When you explain by words, people don't really understand in the subconscious way or in the unconscious way. To understand, to talk to the soul, because as a quantum shaman that I call myself, I always explain to the soul, and that I learned with my dad. I was talking to his soul, not to his mind. So the triangle, what it means, it's somebody that understands that wants to change their life because my life is so horrible. I don't know what I need. I'm not happy. But they don't understand that we have other lives, that our patterns or our programming sometimes comes from our ancestors, or comes from other lives, or comes from religion. And that is a limitation for us to understand life and to transform life. So when I explain that, I explain, okay, the triangle is, this is actually you're focusing. You are focused only in your family, your work, your well-being. That's it.
That's it.
And this is enough. This is enough to understand that you want to transform your life in the different other aspects of your life. So the well-being becomes a well-being not only physical, but mental. You are understanding, you are opening to other aspects. And also your job is also that you can create what you want to do and how you want to do it, and creativity, and then these other aspects of your life, the spirituality, and having fun or sports is another aspect of you, because there you have abilities.
Yes.
So when I start doing that and say, okay, now let's transform this aspect of your life into a cube. Now you have another way of understanding life. And then it becomes a tetrahedron, and then a dodecahedron, and then an icosahedron. Why? Because all these aspects of your life have inside potential. Your abilities become potential, and your potential becomes a soul. So somebody that just thinks that life is being married, having a job, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
And then you understand that you're a soul transiting in this life, other lives.
Yes.
And then you can change so many things, and you don't have to be always in the same job, but you can change your job by changing the focusing of your life. And you start thinking, how can I do that? Okay, what do you like in life? Well, I like doing this, I like doing that. Okay, that's a potential. You can be a cook, you can be a chef.
Yes.
Really? But that I do, but I can't. How can I earn money by doing that? You're a chef. I mean, people can see that now with these TV programs, Master Chef, these people that have a dream.
Yes.
I love cooking, but I'm an engineer, I work in this and that, and I don't like my life, but I love cooking. Okay, that's your dream.
Yes.
When you have a yearning in your soul, that's your destiny. So follow your destiny. You just have to eliminate the programming, the limitation programming, belief system. So yes, you can do it. Right now, there's this guy who won a long time ago, Master Chef in Spain. And he didn't have a dream. He just liked to cook, but he was poor. He didn't have anything. He won, and now he has a star in the Michelin
star. Yeah.
chef
Wow.
star. And Netflix gave him his documentary. I mean, this guy is so cool because he has ideas, he has this and that. So I always say that when you have a dream, that's your path, that's your destiny. Yes. And even though you think your dream is impossible, that's where we have to work on, because there's nothing impossible when you have a yearning. So healing is focusing on your yearning and make it manifested into the physical life.
Yes.
And when you see that there's something impossible, that's where we have to heal.
Yeah.
It could come from your mother's side, blockades from programming and patterns. It could come from another life. It could come from courses. It could come from, you never know. But it's working on your soul, working on your akashic records, working on your map. And from this map, everything can happen. So I saw this
Yes.
in all these years of working with people.
Beautiful. Yeah, and at the end, you become a sphere. You become whole, and
At the end,
that's the end goal.
yeah,
Yeah, that you become
yeah.
whole. It's beautiful. Yeah, I love that
But the
analogy.
sphere is always there. I always show, the platonic solids
Yeah.
all around the sphere, because the sphere is our higher self. We are
Mm.
completed at one point. I always say, we're always transforming ourselves to feel complete. So that's one of the main things that I talk about in the maps, in the processes, in this trip to the core of the soul. One of the yearnings that we have is not always to be a chef or to be, somebody, or is to feel complete.
Complete.
And this totalness, this wholeness, this one self, this feeling complete is the yearning to go back to source.
Yes.
To feel completed is being source.
Yes.
And this is actually the path. The path and the meaning of our life is to be completed.
Yeah.
And to be completed is also to know the truth.
Yeah, do you feel whole already, or do you feel like you're almost there? Because you are in contact,
Yeah,
connected.
I feel like I'm almost there.
Yeah.
I had always the yearning
Mm-hmm.
to feel completed or to feel this wholeness. This is why I had so many questions. I did touch many times, is what you call illumination, right? Is where you really feel total. But when you come back from this illumination, is what I understood is that you still have to experiment or experience life in this dimension. So
Yes.
it's like you always want to find out more about who you are, how to express yourself. So I think the path is never finished, is infinite.
The journey to your soul is infinite. Beautiful last words of this episode from Maria Elena. Next week, you will hear part 2 of this episode, The Journey to Your Soul. See you next week. Bye bye.